being June 3rd, 2015. I'm going to open up the Charlton Planning Board meeting. First thing on the agenda is some bills. We have payroll for Alan and Jane for 6/8 to 6/13, from 6/15 to 6/20, and we have our payroll for the
Yep, your semi-annual stipend.
semi-annual stipend for 1/15 to 1/30. Do we have a motion to accept these as read?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So kill some time. And we have one more. Oh. We have a bill from Graves Engineering for $542 with the invoices submitted, and we have an invoice for $274.32 for Keith Cludier for the public hearing of Sunset City. Do you have a motion to accept these
I got
two
a
bills?
question, excuse me, I got a question for you. Are we supposed to be hearing this?
Yes.
I can't hear
Okay.
at all.
All right.
I gotta hear it, I
Okay.
still don't hear you.
Sure. All right. Do I have a motion to accept these two bills as read?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have some correspondence here. One is from the Central Mass Regional Economic Development. On behalf of Governor Charles Baker and Lieutenant Governor Housing for the Economic Development, Cabinet Secretary J. Ash cordially invites you to an economical development roundtable discussion as the administrator formalizes its economic development strategy. We are looking to businesses, legislators, cities, and municipal leaders to help inform our politicians to capture the key priorities from across the state. We will host 6 regional meetings. We hope you can join us at the Central Mass Regional Development Roundtable discussion on Thursday, June 25th at Quinsigamond Community College at the Harrington Learning Center, room 109 AB, 670 West Boylston Street, Worcester, Mass. Time 1 to 3.
I'm gonna go, I'm disappointed about something though. The way they've structured it is, there's gonna be 6 parallel meetings on 6 topics. And the one that is most applicable, obviously, to us is about planning and zoning and permitting. And it filled up and sold, it's for free, but it's sold out in terms of you have to reserve immediately. So I can't get in, even though that's what we do. So of the other 5, I signed up for business workforce retention, which is a good thing, but it isn't related to what we do. I am going to talk to the Mass Office of Business Development, the new director who I've been talking with lately. He's a real nice guy. He came on board, John Golnick. He replaced Rosemary Scrivens a few months ago. But the problem is, I don't know if he can help us get more room. My advice to them is, it's at Quinsig, they could find a bigger room. I just can't believe that they couldn't, just adjust. There's another 3 to 4 weeks to go before they have the meeting.
And it's the 25th, so colleges will be out by then.
Exactly, yeah. But I'll talk to John Golnick and see if they're planning on a bigger room. And if any of you would like to go, there is no cost. It's up to you.
We have a correspondence from the Town of Leicester Zoning Board of Appeals. Certificate of decision on a special permit. Location of project is 81 Waite Street, Leicester. to demolish existing house and build a new house. The Leicester Zoning Board of Appeals moved to approve the petitioner of Robert A. and Joan Flaw of 321 Elliott Street, Milton, Mass. For a special permit to demolish existing house and build a new house 7.5 feet from the east side property boundary lines of proposed location 81 Waite Street, Leicester, Mass. Town of Oxford, Zoning Board of Appeals, notification of a Zoning Board of Appeal decision. Applicant and owner, Dean and Don Powell. Address is 19 Corbin Road, Oxford, Mass. To request a variance of the minimum dimension setback requirements of the side and rear setbacks. The public hearing is April 30th, 2015. Action taken, the variance was granted. Again, the Town of Oxford, Zoning Board of Appeals, notification from James, and on behalf of Susan Boucher, to extend a pre-existing non-conforming nature of the property to allow the construction of a single-family dwelling on the same property as an existing kennel business pursuant to provisions of Chapter 3, Section 1.0, subsection 1.2.2.2 of the Oxford zoning bylaws. Action taken, special permit granted. Town of Sturbridge, Zoning Board of Appeals, will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 17th, 2015, on the application of Island Tool and Manufacturing to construct an office building that has a maximum of two stories and 3-story elements and a total of 44 feet 2 inches. The property is located at 198 Charlton Road. That's it for correspondence. We did bills. It's close enough to 7:15. We do have a public hearing. Sampson. Notice of a public hearing for the Charlton Planning Board. In accordance to section 7.1.4, 7.2.1, and 7.2.7 of the Charlton zoning bylaws, the Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015, at 7:15 p.m. in the Planning Board office of the George C. McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass., on the site plan application of Waterman Design Associates Incorporated on behalf of Sampson Road Solar, LLC, 4 Liberty Square, Boston, Mass. 02109, requesting approval of a proposed 2.6 megawatt commercial ground-mounted solar array and associated utility connections on approximately 11 acres of the 42-acre site located at 18 Sampson Road, Assessor Map 32, Block A, Parcel 6. Said property is zoned low-density residential R40. Copy of the site plan applications are available for inspection at the Planning Board office and the Town Clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time of the public hearing designated. Alan, can you start this off with us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief and speak for 2 to 3 minutes and then introduce the applicant's engineer. For those of you who haven't attended a site plan review hearing before, the board always asks me to state what the requirements are. In Massachusetts, an administrative site plan is an allowed use. The board is not determining whether or not this should happen. The board is determining the design layout of it. The board looks at issues such as site drainage, the driveway location, buffering, landscaping, if it was a commercial, industrial, or residential building, lighting and signage, that type of thing. So what the board does is they first have about a 5-minute presentation from the applicant's engineer. Then the board members themselves will take a few moments to ask some questions, and then the chairman will allow anyone from the audience, after stating your name and address, to make a comment or ask a question. I'll introduce during the hearing, and summarize our engineer's review of the design plan, and the board will take it from there. Mike Scott is here tonight from Waterman Design. He's the applicant's engineer. Mike, if you can, you've done this before, if you can give about a 5-minute general overview for everyone, and then the chairman will take it from there.
Sir.
Thank you.
For the record, Michael Scott, Waterman Design Associates. Also here is Ben Axelman on behalf of the applicant, Sampson Road Solar, also one of the landowners. He's here in the back, Mr. Kozowski. As Alan said, the property is located at 18 Sampson Road. The sheet that I have up on the board here shows the property in its entirety. It's roughly just shy of 43 acres. It's bounded by the yellow lines, situated on the west side of Sampson Road, south of Sturbridge Road, Route 20. As you can see, it's a mix of open fields and woodland. There's also a power easement running east-west across the property. Adjoining properties include a few single-family homes on the east side of Sampson Road. These are dilapidated barn buildings, one of which has come down over the winter. The structure you see here is actually has been demolished. There's a small shed up at Route 20. Otherwise, there's no structures on the site. And there's about 43 acres, about 2.5 to 3 acres of that is wetland. It's not easy to see here, but there's a pond up near Route 20, and from there, there's an intermittent channel that flows. This area is wet, and it continues off to the south and west. There are also some wetland resource areas on the other side of Sampson Road, but nowhere near the proposed development area. It's zoned residential, the entire property. Again, it has frontage on 20 and Sampson Road, several thousand feet on Sampson Road, in fact. The proposal is for a 2.6 megawatt ground-mounted array, and it's not really obvious from there. I know you have the plan, but the array, the 12 acres or so that would be fenced is in this area, all to the north of the power easement. So no work would occur from the power easement to the south, and there would be no work proposed to the north of the array up to Route 20, and obviously nothing in the wetland over to the west side. The topography is that Sampson Road rises up and to about the point where it gets beyond the easement. So for the most part, the topography is that the land slopes towards 20 or towards the west. There's really very little of the site that pitches or slopes back to the east, just in maybe this corner. And then as you move to the farther south part, southern part of the property does slope off to the southwest, and that's the way that the intermittent stream flows. There are a couple places where cart paths sort of enter onto the site, one being here, and then there's an area where this is fully accessible. There's an area where the home had been. It's a little more stabilized, but otherwise it's just a dirt shoulder. There's no formal drainage or anything along Sampson Road. I'll show you a little more detailed plan of what's proposed. This is looking specifically at the area of proposed development. So north is towards me, to the right. As you're looking at Sampson Road is on the bottom of the sheet. Route 20 is off the sheet. Power line easement is just at the left side of the sheet. This plan shows the location of the wetlands and the 100-foot buffer zone. The panels, not outlined here, but it shows the extent of the grading. Essentially this line, that's the fence line, is the area that will be cleared and maintained as array. There's about a 20-foot buffer outside the limit of the panels, or beyond the edge of the panels. And what you see is the proposed topography here, which essentially flattens out this steeper section on the west side of the site to a 10% slope. You can see on that's the sheet before this one in the plan set, which shows the limit of the array. There are about 8,800 panels or so mounted up through the site. And again, they'd be oriented to face towards the left side of the sheet, facing south. 2 stormwater detention areas are proposed, one in the northeast corner and one, rather northwest corner, and one in the northeast corner. They're there to take a nominal hit off of the slight increase in stormwater runoff that would result from the project. There are no paved roads and no new impervious proposed with the project. The access will be down at Sampson Road. This is a gravel drive that would run on the east side of the array, allowing access to the location where the inverters would be. There'd be a new power connection to an existing utility pole here on Sampson Road. And we also show a little place to pull off the side of the road so that the power company can access their poles outside the fenced enclosure. We also show several hundred arborvitae along the length of the fenced enclosure on Sampson Road. That's tabulated on the plan set, the number of those. So we feel that it meets the requirement for the screening that you've approved elsewhere in town along the residentially zoned properties.
There's actually 211 arborvitae.
Okay, that's what we call it, yeah. It's the same 4-foot spacing as you've approved in the past. We did do soils testing out here and found that the soils are essentially 2 to 3 feet to groundwater and it's glacial till, so we didn't encounter any ledge or refusal to 10 or 12 feet. We didn't encounter any large boulders, but there are some stone walls in the property, so if someone has encountered them in the past, we just didn't hit much out here. So, I guess with that, I'll take questions.
Board members have any questions at the moment? There's still some buffer between the north side of this solar farm to Route 20, correct?
That's correct. There are several hundred feet, and I did bring the full set, but I believe it's dimensioned on that sheet. It tells you that it's 445 feet from the fence line
To Route 20.
to the sideline, correct, to the layout. So there's 440 feet or so there. This area is wet. There is a pond, but this portion of the property is will be all upland.
When I drove up by that way this morning, I did notice that there is some vegetation that's there.
There's
Is the intention is to keep that there?
Right, the clearing would occur only, as you see on that sheet, right along this northern edge. There's no proposal to touch this brush and tree line this far below. And certainly nothing over here because it's wetland.
What was the measurement?
Where's my two fields on that side?
Excuse me, sir,
Sure.
if you can speak through the chairman and identify your name and address, please.
At the present moment, the planning board is asking him questions, and after we get done asking him questions, we'll ask for the public input, and you can ask questions at that time. You can wait a few more minutes, please. What would you say the distance is, chain link fences from the road?
Right. Did we dimension it? I believe we put a dimension down at the lower corner there. I think we have it at 8 feet off the right of way. I believe that's 8 feet off. I don't know if I can take a look. Sure.
Yeah, it looks like 8.
Yes, we have it at 8 feet from the layout. That's correct.
Okay.
That's not from the paved road. That's from the edge of the right of way.
Okay. Do you feel at this time that the arborvitaes that will be planted won't be affected by snow removal as far as plowing them up?
They're going to be close to the edge of the road. I mean, again, the traveled way is another, on the order of 8 to 10 feet from there. The dashed line is the edge of traveled way, so you've got roughly that same dimension. You've got on the order of 12 to 16 feet to the fence line from the edge of the road.
Now, have they required a bond or something like that for if the arborvitae's die within a year or something like that?
Yes,
Is that how it works?
yes, what we've done, and Nexamp, this company did it with their other one on Carpenter Hill, they'll have to give, prior to the issuance of the certificate of operation, before they plug into National Grid, they'll provide a performance guarantee to the planning board. It'll get back on your agenda. Mike Andrade, our engineer, will review the cost amount to confirm that it's sufficient,
Yep.
and we'll carry it for a full year, yes, from the date of the acceptance of the bond.
You were saying how there's like a little pull-off for utility trucks to service the poles.
Correct.
I'm not really quite clear, where is the driveway going in? It says a crushed stone pad.
Correct. It's shown. We show both ends tying into the edge of Carpenter Hill Road. that's the traveled way. So we have a place to pull off the side. Rather than having them pull off onto the meadow that's there, we're looking for a stabilized pad for them to park on when they're out there.
So there'd be a gate somewhere in here for
Uh,
the
no.
maintenance group?
The access to internally would be
Yeah.
at this end, and on the other end, there'd be a gate here and a gate here. So in order to get within the chain link enclosure, you'd enter here or here and exit at the other end. This is outside the fence line, which is why the fence jogs over as such, so the utility company can access its pole.
Mike, how big do those arborvitaes get? Tall, do you know?
If they're unmaintained, you know, they can get 12 feet.
So just a question, if there was a line along this fence line here, given that Route 20 is lower, would that do any screening for like, it'd do the first,
It would,
sets of panels, but
Right,
then
I mean,
it
as
would
you're
rise
looking-
up after that, right?
yeah, I suppose it depends on what kind of vehicle you're in and how
Yeah.
tall you are, but yeah, I guess, I'm thinking out loud, yeah, it would certainly block the fence eventually and probably block the back of the first panel.
Yeah.
But you might see them.
See the, above the,
Yeah,
right, so you can see the rest of the panels.
potentially. I mean, it's a pretty gradual slope out there. It's not like it's extremely steep.
Yeah,
I drove it again this afternoon, and it's open here, obviously.
Yep.
And as the chairman pointed out, there is vegetation in this area that's unmaintained, and will thicken up with time. It does afford some screening. You probably wouldn't see it as you're heading eastbound, but you'd certainly have the
Yeah.
ability from 20
From
to
a-
see it
yeah.
going west, and certainly if you turned onto the road. But
any plans to develop the rest of the site for anything?
not that I'm aware of. Not for solar.
Any other questions from the board? So at this time, I'd like to open it up for anybody in the public who has a question about the project. I know the gentleman in the front did have a question. Woody?
Yeah,
Could you state your name and
I'm sorry, I'm Alan
Yeah.
Green, and I live right next door,
what's your street address?
One Horn Homestead Road.
Oh, no, that's the
No,
next hearing.
that's
the
Oh,
next
this
hearing.
is Sampson Road.
Okay.
Apologize.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
My bad.
We didn't get what you want to ask.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We're opening it to the public now.
That was me.
Do you have a question, sir?
We're
Do you
opening
have
it.
a question?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering on the map where my property is on that map.
Could you
Is there
show,
going to be a buffer zone?
could you show him where his house is on
If
that?
there is a buffer
You
We
zone,
are-
need his name and
Yeah,
address.
you are who?
Forest McKinstry, 29 Sampson.
What's his name?
Mr. Street.
This is your home.
29 Simpson.
I'm at home that's up in the,
Yep, this is your home.
right across the street from Mass Electric, National Grid.
Correct. So the array is proposed. This is the stone walled cart road that enters here.
Yeah.
This is the power easement right here. The array will be on the other side of that. This brush line.
Yeah.
And there are arborvitae's proposed.
The open field before the old farmhouse.
Yes, yes, in there, correct. The old farmhouse was here.
I was born and brought up there, so I know the property pretty good.
Right. So the array goes through, is in this area.
Excuse me, could he come up for a minute? We can show him where his house is on the
Come
plan.
over here and I'll show you where your house is. Come in.
It's the same plan.
Come up to the table here. We'll show you where your house
I'm
is.
not good at reading maps.
Oh, it's
No,
okay.
we'll
Tell me
show
about
you.
it.
But we'll show you where it is.
So you're here, that's your home, and this plan is 150 feet per inch, so you're about 150 feet from that corner of
Of the next field.
the
That
first,
field?
of that first, this black line here, if you can see it, is one of
There's
those.
where the partial buffer zone is.
Nope, that's where the panels will be.
No, along Route
Oh,
Sampson
yes,
Road.
it will run along this edge, all the way
That
up.
buffer zone is already there, it's half down now. The car took it down Sunday morning,
No,
so I mean,
right, so the proposal is to add,
Is it just-
the proposal is to
All
add
the way?
plantings along, the plantings from this end all the way to this end.
all the way?
That's correct. About 200 and some odd plants.
400 feet. I don't think it's gonna
Answer
be
your
much.
question?
Yeah,
Okay. Any other
I'm
comments
hard to
from,
hear it, so.
any other comments from the
Well, I
public
got a
at this
hearing
time?
aid, but sometimes I don't hear right, so.
I can do the graves.
Sure. At this time, I'd like to have Alan go over the grades report for us.
There's very little, actually. I want to commend Mike because he's done a lot of other projects in Charlton the past few years. He understands what our requirements are for drainage and site civil engineering. The planning board's engineer consultant, Mike Andrade, reviewed the plan, and he had initially 8 comments. And he revised 7 of them, and they were all very minor, like add a footnote here, add a little more information there. The only one outstanding that could be a condition of the approval is, you added at his recommendation the outlet riprap aprons to the 2 stormwater basins, but he just said there were no sizing calculations of the riprap aprons. That's something you can add in terms of width and length by foot in a final plan for us prior to the issuance of a building permit. So it's a very brief plan, comment plan, because you did an excellent first run design of it for hydrology and for civil engineering. Thank you.
Do you want to make those as a footnote for conditions of this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, when you close the hearing, I can give you draft conditions, and I have that on my list. Thank you.
Does the board have any more questions to ask at this time?
Other than Mike's notes, Mike Andre's notes on item number 5, regarding the evergreens. And I think Kyle brought it up too. How visible is this gonna be from Route 20?
Hard to tell.
Because it's one of these things?
Yeah, Route 20's down here and the site's up here, so
So it goes up.
depends on how you're looking and how
Okay.
steep it's gonna be.
I drove by it this morning, and the vegetation that is down here,
Yeah,
it's kind of like wild. If it's not touched, I believe it would screen a fair amount of it from Route 20. And at the present time, they're saying that they're not gonna be touching it because of the wetlands, correct?
Yeah, there's a portion of it that gets cleared right here for the fence, but the rest of this is left as it is today.
It won't be like the other 20,
right.
the other 21. You'll have to actually look to notice it.
You won't be looking down on it like you are on the other one.
Right.
Looking up at it, so there will be something.
Okay, that was the only thing I knew, wanted to clarify.
There's, we've got arborvitae's planted along here for people going up Sampson Road.
Mm-hmm.
We've got chain link fences. They've got a pull off for National Grid to work on the poles. We've got one entrance in, one entrance out. And the storm retention ponds are down this end. There's wetlands up there.
Pretty much everything's covered.
It's very well designed.
Very good.
Do I have any other questions from the public at this time?
One more question.
Sure.
Is that gonna consist of all 3 fields? Or 2 fields?
This field's not touched. This lower field is I guess that's the southernmost field is not gonna be touched.
The one up past my house?
That's right, this one won't be touched. This field and this back field.
Oh, the one in the back,
Yes.
behind the old bookstore?
Is that what was on 20?
Mother's old
We're
restaurant?
showing our age.
That was a restaurant at one time. I worked in it when I was a kid.
Not hearing any other questions at this time. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alan, if you'd give us a Graves review?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recommend some conditions for your vote, and they're all routine. We've gone over these before. The first several, with the exception of the last 2, are for just about every project you do. The first one is it's a 2-year approval, which just means they have to initiate by applying for and receiving their building permit within 2 years, which I know you're gonna do well before that. That's to keep projects from coming in and gathering dust on the shelf. The second one is, before they receive the building permit, the applicant would get the written notice to proceed issued by the planning board after you meet in the field for a walkthrough with our engineer, Mike Andrade. The third one is that prior to the certificate of operation, when you're done building it and before you plug into National Grid, the planning board will sign off on the certificate of occupancy that the building permit puts together. Fourth, I would recommend you just reference and attach the Graves report dated May 26th, which shows compliance with all the various 8 conditions with the exception of the riprap apron. And next I'd recommend that prior to the building permit, we receive a few revised copies. That just adds that footnote. Next, the applicant will comply with the requirements of our field construction inspection schedule that Graves Engineering will provide you at the first pre-construction meeting. The last 2 are more specific to the project about the landscaping. As the chairman and Mr. Holgren mentioned earlier, the planning board requires for the first year of any project with a lot of landscaping a performance guarantee. Your company provided one for the Carbondale Road one, same type of thing. The condition that I'll write up will state that you're required to give it to us in a format acceptable to the board. The board has to get it back on its agenda to review it, and the board will vote to accept it. And at that point, it'll be valid. It has to be valid for a period of 1 year from the date that they vote to accept it. Under that performance guarantee, should any arborvitae die, you will just take them out and replace them immediately. The last condition, when we get a project this big with that much arborvitae, we recommend prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant's engineer will give us a proposed watering and maintenance plan, and you've done that for a few of the other projects. We'd really like it proposed for a 24-month period, even though we'll carry the guarantee for 12 months. We really want to go to 2 cycles of 4 seasons, that we're being careful and our engineer can keep in touch with Michael from Waterman to make sure that we don't get into a problem, and once we're beyond 24 months, we don't have authority beyond then, but you should be stabilized enough. Under Massachusetts zoning law, we don't have authority, just for the first few years, but we should have enough stabilization there that we should be in good shape. So those are the recommended conditions, Mr. Chairman.
I have one idea,
Sure.
I'd like to run by.
Sure.
In the past, we've asked for an insurance policy if this was to ever fail for a cleanup. Being in the location that it is this something we should consider?
That's a good question. If I can explain, refresh people's memory and anyone who's new here tonight. Under Massachusetts zoning law, a planning board can require for things like the solar field, telecommunication tower, these types of things, a decommissioning bond. This board had an extensive discussion a few years ago when the first solar projects came forward on how you wanted to handle that. You had me and Jane contact other communities and see what their boards are doing, and what we found is if it's in a heavy residential neighborhood, it makes sense to do it, such as the Snake Hill Road one you did recently, because unfortunately, if someday they go bankrupt or abandon it, you're then covered to disassemble it. What you decided is along the Route 20 corridor, anything that fronts on Route 20, you would not require those, because it's, even if there's some residential abutting, it's such prime industrial commercial land, it's gonna come down. It's being leased by Mr. Kozowski. If they abandoned it, he's not gonna let it sit. He's gonna hire a realtor, and he's going to find somebody for his prime access right on an interstate highway to redevelop that site. And there's so much value in the material for recycling anyway. So, with all due respect, I just wouldn't recommend that we have to change that policy for anything that is right on Route 20 like this one.
Do you have any discussion on that, or do you feel Route 20 corridor is a cleanup area?
My only concern is if something did happen there, what else could go in there? Is it
What is the
with
zoning
the
here?
wetland?
It's residential.
Residential.
It is residential, so
It's wetlands,
what would
too.
probably happen is there's still wetlands constraint. Even though it's currently residential, like some of the pieces on 20, most of them are industrial commercial, and the applicant could come, the property owner could come forward for a zone change. The only type of residential I think you'd really see that would be viable would be if it was 55 and over, multifamily. I don't think you're gonna see a subdivision in there. And then again, any viability, it's gonna come down. But I highly doubt a company like Nexamp is going to abandon anyway, because there's value in the material that's very high in today's market. It's, you decide not to do it anymore, you make money off of carting it away.
Do I have a motion at this time to include in the hearing the articles that Alan just read off from the Graves report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you. We'll write up next week your permit and send it out to you and Michael and file it with the clerk, for the planning board site plan review, and then you can move forward on the conditions.
The gentleman, sure, go ahead, ask one more question.
Maybe you could answer it.
Sure.
When was that property up there turned from agriculture to low-density residential?
Very good question. Probably in the late
'Cause
19th.
my property is farm, agriculture.
Yeah. I would say that probably with the adoption of the very first zoning bylaw in Charlton, the R40 came in. I've been here for 14 years and there's never been a map change up there, so because it's at least 14 years old, I would say probably 1987. It goes back to the original
I've been here all
87.
my life, and my property's been agricultural all my life.
Yeah, but it's agricultural in terms of physical condition and use, but under, the town adopted its first zoning map and bylaw in 1987, and they created an R40 residential zone in 87 over there. So it's been,
Well, that whole farm, I farmed that right up until a couple of years ago, before my brother died.
yeah,
I did all the farming to keep it as a farm,
yeah,
under 6061A.
right. And that's fine, but this is, the zoning map is different from that. No one changed anything on you, they just adopted a zoning map that was residential, back in 1987.
Mr. McKinstry's side of the road is still agricultural.
Yeah,
What's that?
Your lot is still agricultural.
Yeah.
yeah, but this
Well,
property has
this
been
one, yeah.
R40 since.
Because
The
I-
other side is not.
Move on.
But I never, being a butter, I should think I would've got a notice,
Next item.
which I never did. No.
Okay.
Also, what's going on in town, it's gonna affect me, that's,
I can't speak for 1987, sir, I'm sorry. It's just, that's when it happened.
All right, we've concluded with the Sampson Road public hearing and agenda, and we're gonna be moving on to our 7:30
Thank you
PM
very much.
hearing.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank anybody for showing up tonight. Okay.
what is it, all done?
Yep,
Yes.
that's all done. Okay. You're all set.
It's turned up too, I don't need to.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Notice of a public hearing for Charlton Planning Board in accordance with section 7.1.4, 7.2.1, and 7.2.7 of the Charlton zoning bylaws. The Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015 at 7:50. I don't think you gave me the wrong one, Matt. Gave you back that same one.
Oh, sorry about that.
Go
Hang on
ahead.
1 second. We've got 3 hearings tonight. Give me 1 minute.
He's not the first part of it again.
That's okay.
The planning board will hold a public hearing on the George McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. On the site application of Burton Engineering on behalf of Bryant Remick, 4 Wamsutta Ridge Road, Charlton, Mass. 01507, requesting approval for construction and operation of an 18-hole miniature golf course on an approximately 2-acre parcel located at 360 Worcester Road, Route 20. Assessor map 40, block B, parcel 24. Said property is zoned partially community business and partially agricultural. Copy of the said site plan application are available for inspection at the planning board office and the town clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard shall appear at this time and place designated. Alan, at this time, if you could give us a brief overlook of what's happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, I'll be very brief. This is an administrative site plan review, which means in Massachusetts, under the state zoning, it's an allowed use, but the planning board has full authority on the specific design. And that's what we look at tonight. We look at the layout, where the parking is, the driveway, making sure from civil engineering, the drainage will work okay. Any concerns about buffering with any abutters or not, fencing, anything like that. Again, the planning board has its engineer review it, and the way we'll proceed is if Jay from Burton Engineering, if you can do no more than a 5-minute general presentation in a moment, then the board members themselves will ask you a few questions. And then the board will open it up to anybody else who's here, and then I'll present our engineering review, and the board will proceed from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go now, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, Jason Dubois from Burton Engineering. Property is 360 Worcester Road. Worcester Road, Route 20, running in through this area here. There was a existing house on the property. Remaining portion of the property is grassed areas and some asphalt pavement through here. There's entrances off of Route 20 in this area here with an island here, another entrance here. There's a wetland area over in this area here. Septic system located back here. You can see a few scattered trees throughout. Here's the zone line right here from community business on the Route 20 side, agricultural in the back portion. Go over to the proposed site. Basically, the plan got shifted here, so now Route 20 is along this area here. This area has been closed off for the access off of Route 20, and there's a single access right through here. Parking and traffic flow in both directions through the parking lot here. Yep.
Can you turn that a little bit so these guys in the back can see it if they want?
Oh, sure.
You guys want to see that?
Yes, I do.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
So again, Route 20 is located along here, with a single entrance through this area here. Traffic can come in and basically go both ways throughout the entire parking lot. I believe there's 41 parking spaces throughout here, 2 handicap spaces here. You can see throughout the back area, this is all the miniature golf, the different holes. There's a small clubhouse area here where you pay to use the site. There's a fence, a split rail fence, basically starting here, coming around to the back, and a wooden stockade fence running around the rest of the property here. The drainage basically in the existing condition, all sheet flowed in this direction here into this wetland located here. The proposed drainage is going to do the same. Going to come through here. There's a stone kind of median along the edge of the parking lot that'll somewhat treat the water better than what's there now. Overflow through there and continue into the wetland area. I think that's basically the project. So there's really no extensive clearing because it's all basically lawn area now. If there's any questions, I can go a little further.
At this time, I'd like to just open it up to the board for questions. Anybody have a question at the time? Come?
Jason, you talk about lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting, we do have a lighting plan that we just got today, actually. And this is hard to read, but I think there's gonna be 4 lights located in the parking lot, here and here. And I think there's gonna be small lights, I imagine, throughout the,
Scattered throughout.
yeah,
What's those trees?
these are all the
Yeah. So that just came in today, Alan. Did Graves look at that at all?
I actually have
The one item on the graves that we'll get to,
just 2 copies here.
yeah. The only item that we had left remaining is Leslie Wilson at Burton was working on this plan, the photometrics. So what I recommended to her is if Jay could bring it tonight,
Yep.
and that any approval would have the condition that before getting the building permit, Mike Andrade will just review this and you'll adjust it prior to if it's needed.
Mhm.
But Mike can review this in the next few days.
Okay.
Would we be saying that where it's in green is spotlights, floodlights?
No, I marked in green just each hole of the 18 holes, just so you'd see the layout of the golf. Yeah.
So the lighting scenario for this is still gonna be up for review, correct?
Yeah, the photometric plan is either fine or slightly off. When we get a photometric plan, the idea is for them to show that they're not creating light spillage that's a nuisance off of the property. And if Mike Andrade reviews this in the next few days and finds that, he'll tell them how to adjust it and to cut back and to move things and change angles. So I'm not concerned that it hasn't had its final review, it's just one civil engineering item, and they'll have to make sure it's okay before they get a building permit. We'll assure of that, so.
Jason, you said a stockade fence is along the
backside
the backside
here
and that side?
to here, yep. And this is a split rail fence along here.
Okay. And you need to get a Mass Highway permit
Yes,
for the
we
curb
have
cut?
applied for that already. We haven't gotten it back yet.
The stockade fence is probably what, 8 feet tall?
There's probably a detail here. 6 feet?
6 feet.
That's what it is right now.
Oh, okay.
That's a 6-foot fence.
Don't see the stockade fence on here. Oh, here it is right here. Yeah, 6 feet.
Hours of operation would probably be, any idea?
The applicant can
Yeah.
speak to this.
Could you give us an idea what the hours of operation would be?
Brian, if you could just state your name and address.
Oh,
for the
I'm
record.
Brian Remick, I'm the leasing of the property. I'm open, we were thinking 9 AM to probably 11 PM. Last game can't start after 10 PM. Sundays, we might go back an hour or so earlier in the evening during the summer.
Could you also just tell the board, because we had a conversation on what your plans are for your schedule of actually being open, so they'll understand the seasonal of it and how you're planning to work that out with
Okay.
with the water supply restrictions from DEP.
What happened was, because there's wells on the property, I had to go meet with the Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP in Worcester. And the issue that the DEP had was, with the existing well that's there, basically we couldn't be, it falls under the public water supply system, that well. And the definition means if you have 25 or more people per day on the property, which we would, and if you're open for 60 days in an entire year or longer, the well now becomes property of the DEP as far as regulations. So what that means is I couldn't use the existing well and be open for an entire season, say, you know, if I wanted to open in May till October. So what we decided on doing was we talked to the DEP, and we're only going to be open 59 days. Basically, it might only be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for this season. What they suggested to me so that we could open pretty much a season is if we decided to drill a well in the back corner here, and then we drew a 100-foot radius, and we had no anything in the way there, then we could get a variance from the property owners behind there. Then we could open a regular season if we wanted. So currently we're just going to be open 59 days for a season, which might mean weekends only in May, and then again it might only be 4 days during June and July and August. So now we can use the existing well that's there. Any days that it rains in that 59 days so we can use it, then we could obviously open an extra day in the month if we wanted to. But 59 days is the maximum days we can be open right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Questions from the board?
Security, now, just because teenagers or whatever, what's the proposal? What are you planning on doing for that? If I was a teenage kid and I wanted to cause some trouble, could I?
Or go mini golfing?
I'll go mini golfing at 1 o'clock in the morning. Is there any sort of plan to take care of that?
Oh yeah, on our scorecards, and we also have a sign that's made up, which is typical miniature golf courses, that's posted as you're entering the area of the clubhouse that will state the rules. And on the scorecard, we also have on the back some of the rules to follow, you might say, and one of them is that we have the right to make anyone leave that if they're, have horse playing or, doing anything that might be hurtful to anybody.
What about, I'm just saying, what about in the middle of the night? Is there security cameras or whatever?
What we are going to do is we're going to have some of the lights that will be on all night. Like 2 of the parking lot lights will stay on. And one of the lights that would be actually in this middle area here that has a couple lights. So one will be shining towards the clubhouse and over. So part of this will be just lighted enough so it's not dark. That way the Charlton police, if they're coming by, can see the property area, see what's going on, if there's anybody in the parking lot that shouldn't be there after it's closed.
Any other questions from the board? At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. If you would state your name and address and any
I'm
comments.
Alan Green. I live at One Horn Homestead Road. And basically, I'm just concerned with the lighting because I don't know what that little square building is there. Right up there in the corner. Up, yep.
This one?
Yeah. My house is directly across from there. And I'm about,
Right here?
yeah. And believe it or not, I'm about 100 feet from where you're gonna build that. And 100 feet. And that's my bedroom. And I'm worried, like you're saying, the lighting and stuff. If you see where the parking lot is, the parking lot's not too far from where my bedroom is. That means it's less than 100 feet. And with the noise, and he should say sometimes might be open till 11 o'clock at night. I work 6 days a week. And we all know Dick's Tire Bar. They're open 6 days a week, but they close at 5. They don't stay open late because of mainly the people and stuff. And I'm just worried, because of the noise and stuff like that, and the lighting.
What kind of fence is going on this side?
6-foot stockade.
That's a stockade.
Being open till 11 o'clock at night, I would think that they would have quite a bit of noise.
One issue related to this, the gentleman mentioned concern
It's like
about
we're calling
lighting
6 feet.
from here. If,
You know what I mean? Like,
if this is south, north, east, and west, do you plan on putting any lighting off of this building? Because if so, then if you didn't put any on this side, there'd be no lighting coming off the building shining in that direction. Were you proposing anything off the building?
No. The lighting that we have to use it's called directional lighting. It's not the lighting that you and I would see like at a Walmart or something where they're tall and they direct light like in a 360. These are directionals. They're shaped like this, so they only give a lighting effect in the
I think
specific
they're
area.
up here in the
I've played miniature golf for a good part of 30 years, and what I've noticed in years is that unlike, say, Fenway Park, where you go in and the whole square footage is lit up, these type of lights only direct light down in a specific area where the holes are, so it doesn't give off an array where it's gonna, reflect a long ways off. The lights that are in the parking lot are directed inward towards the parking lot, not towards you. So, and the poles are not, the tallest pole in the parking lot is only 20 feet. The others are 14 feet. So they're very low, and they're the type of light that just directs downward at a specific area, rather than like in a parking lot where you'd have the whole parking lot lit up.
Jay, I got a quick question to ask you. In regards to this gentleman's property, would you say elevation-wise that his house is higher than what this site is? And you're suggesting that the poles that you're gonna be using are gonna be of a certain height. So with his house being up higher and the golf course being down lower, and we do have the 6-foot fence that's there,
Yeah, it looks
We
like-
also have a we didn't cut any trees
If you
here.
could let Jay just.
Oh, okay.
clear it up first.
Yeah, it looks like the grades, I mean, we don't have it going over the property, but up to the property, it looks like there's, quite a steep hill that goes up.
Can you
And
give
we're
us some
about-
numbers here for the
Yeah, we're
boards?
about 685, I would say, along the property.
Mhm.
And down in the parking lot, we're at 670. So that's, 15 feet lower. The parking lot's 15 feet
So on the
lower.
ground itself, you've got about a 15-foot drop from their level
To the parking lot.
down, and then on top of that, you put the 6-foot fence at the top?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So we're looking at about 21 feet difference from where they are, and they look out their window down to where you are. So that takes care of understanding that, but then you look at the measurement of the poles.
And how high is the pole?
Yeah,
20
exactly.
feet. So it'd be about 5 feet higher than where the,
And can
still
you-
would be lower than the fence.
If I give you a yellow marker, can you mark for a moment the pole location so we can visualize it?
There's one here. There's one here. These are at 668. So that would be, what, 17 feet lower. So then you'd be up 3 feet higher than the grade, but then the fence is 6 feet high, so it'd actually be 3 feet lower than the top of the fence.
So the one pole that we're really focused with this gentleman's home is this one.
Yeah.
This pole really is nowhere near him, and are there any other poles away?
Yep, there's
Okay.
one here. There's one right here.
Okay. Thank you. Is it that necessary that that one particular pole be 20, if it was adjusted a little downward too to help? I mean,
Could probably be 16.
Yeah.
cut by 4. Then you're really below anything that he could say.
Yeah.
And you were saying those are directional, right? So you can position
There,
them?
there's specific type of lights for, projects such as this. In
Yeah.
other
Well, that
words,
1 to
they
16,
are
between
made
1
to
and
direct the
16.
light just in an area as it's facing, they're shaped
Is
like
it,
this.
is it
Gonna
shielded?
blink in grade between
Is it-
Some of them are
check
shielded,
and
yes,
make
but
sure it
again,
shows
it's
the
not the
property in
type where it would reflect a complete 360 type of lightage situation there.
Jay, what I'd like to make a suggestion is that one particular pole, if we could drop it to 16 feet.
Mhm.
And that way there, when our engineer goes out, he can make sure that the direction of it is going in a good direction.
Mhm.
Would you be acceptable? Okay. I think we're gonna be asking for that.
Yeah. We'll have a field inspection with our engineer to test it, and that way if it creates any issues, we can adjust it some more in the field. That would be okay.
Was there going to be any other additional lighting you mentioned by the holes, or?
Well, there are basically eight poles. All of them have at least 2 lights on them. Again, directional, towards the
Okay.
holes, not out towards properties.
Okay.
Everything is inward, downward towards the holes only. So most of the property is not gonna be lit up like I would say, like Fenway
Right.
Park, where you have just light everywhere.
Yeah. Especially with your electric bills, isn't it?
Yeah.
You going with any of the green technology to keep it low for cost?
I'm using LED lights, yep.
Good.
Everything's LED, so it won't be
LED is very.
floodlight.
Yeah,
type thing, no.
LED stays very local too.
Yeah. The other advantage also is, again, the perimeter of the entire, not only your property, but the lot behind, is all wooded, which is great, because, we're only open during the summer, which means while there's foliage on the trees, so in addition with the fences and the trees that I did not want to take down, there's a lot of perimeter coverage of very tall trees with good foliage.
Alan, I noticed he does have, trash recycling enclosures for the trucks and that stuff to go in, so,
Yes,
all that will be addressed.
yes.
Do we have any other comments from the public at this time? If you'd state
Yep.
your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Steele, 363 Worcester Road. I live across the street. I'd like to know what's going to happen to this during the winter. Is it just going to stay there, or, I mean, is anything going to happen there during the winter?
Any
No.
activity?
Yeah, any activity?
At this time, I'd like to ask the owner if he would just make a brief comment as to what would happen during the winter months.
Well, it'll be closed down. We will keep a couple of the parking lot lights on. Obviously, I mean, again, my concern is, like everyone else, is I want to make sure we don't have vandalism or, teenagers that are going over there having a beer or two in the parking lot. So I'm going to have those couple lights that will be on, during the nighttime. But as far as the operation, once we get into winter, it'll be closed. October usually is about the time that it'll be closing.
Yeah, my concern across the street is not so much the lighting, because I don't think it'd affect me that much, but, the noise level would be. The other thing that kind of concerns me is that the Redwood Motel was there for years and years, and they were pretty quiet, never gave me any trouble. But after they went out of business, the place really became unsightly. And if this ever goes out of business, what would happen to it? You mentioned something about an insurance policy that it would be taken care of. I mean, it would be there'd be gazebos and all sorts of things back there, right, and different concrete structures. What's gonna happen if it goes out of business?
I'd refer that question to our planning board director, Alan.
Thank you. Very good logical question, but under the Massachusetts zoning law, that disassembly bond that I mentioned at the last hearing, that's for utility and energy type projects. When the state government wrote that, they wrote it for disassembly for cell towers and for utilities and for solar energy. So this planning board cannot legally require a disassembly for any type of private retail, commercial, office, or residential use. I can just give you my opinion that because it's prime Route 20 property and that he's already got his DEP water supply permit, which is very valuable to a future user, if he ever went out of business, a realtor or he can just use that DEP permit to get somebody to come in and redevelop and make it a clean active site again. That's as far as we can go in terms of requiring anything, but it's a very logical question.
Yeah, I'm not debating you or anything,
Sure,
but
I
the thing
realize
is that property was, vacant for quite a number of years, probably 10 years.
Oh,
Sure.
It's nice to see
I mean,
somebody
it might be prime, but I don't know how many people are interested.
It's nice to see that somebody in the community is willing to develop it and make Charlton a better community. I'm glad to see
Yeah,
that.
I agree with you, but what I'm worried about is that if it goes out of business and, it's,
I'm sure.
I'd rather look at the way it was before than
I'm sure this gentleman is not doing this to go out
than
of
with
business.
gazebos and.
That's the last thing he's thinking of. Okay, do we have any other comments from the public?
I'm more concerned about the noise, because you got that parking lot, and how many people you gonna
11
have?
o'clock at night.
And being open till 11 o'clock at night on some nights. And like I said, my house is,
We're ready.
certain areas gonna be less than 100 feet away.
I
You know, that's,
Let the chairman.
I'd like to make one comment. As myself, I have played at the Auburn Miniature Golf, and
You can get white noise.
I don't really find that, personally, I've enjoyed playing there, and the noise level is, to me, wasn't that drastic, but that's my opinion. And if you'd like to make a comment, go ahead.
Yeah, I can help you there. I've played since high school, and I've played probably in a dozen states. What attracted me to that is you don't have, first of all, you don't have rowdy groups. There's no hard rock music. The music that I'll be playing are small speakers that are kind of hidden, like Muzak music, first of all, so there'll be no loud noise. Miniature golf, in a sense, is really like golf. It's a quiet type of entertainment. You don't have kids out there, again, and if I have any kids that are out there being rowdy, they will be told to either be quiet or they're gone. So you don't have the type of situations, and again, based on all the years that I've played, that's what I enjoyed about it. You don't have a lot of rowdy people drinking, they don't allow that, making a lot of loud noise. So it's going to be kept at a minimum, and like I said, it's a family type of thing. So I can assure you, because I've played so many years, and that's one of the things that I liked about it. I don't like going to do some kind of sport or anything where it's just everybody's yelling and screaming and, so it's a very low volume type of entertainment for people.
Right, and I've gone with a group of people, 12, 15, and it isn't really that, they weren't really that loud, even with the kids. These are like 8-year-olds.
Being like 100 feet away though. 'cause I
well, you
live
gotta
close
figure
with
though,
them.
you're not living 100 feet away. That's a big difference though,
and
Like
his bedroom.
on a Sunday, I got 1 day off a week. I know it don't matter how many days I work or anything like that, but I got 1 day off a week. And on a Sunday, it's supposed to be quiet. And then 100 feet away, if they have a bunch of kids over there, you ain't gonna tell me I'm not gonna hear that.
What time are you opening? Do you think you're opening on Sunday morning?
Sunday, we're probably gonna, again, we won't be busy, but 9, we'll open at 9 on Sunday, maybe 10.
I think, and I'm not passing the buck here, but unfortunately, again, under state zoning laws, we can't deal with anything like this. We can only deal if someone is doing some, like, loud manufacturing that exceeds state DEP noise levels, and I realize and I respect your concern that right now you have a lot more privacy than you will with this, but we just can't do anything about that. It's Massachusetts law is, if someone has vacant land and they develop next door, we just make sure, again, the drainage, the lighting, the fencing, but there's nothing we can do about noise unless it was a major thing that exceeded the state law, and then the state steps in. We don't get involved, but the state does, so there's not much more we can do about that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, at this time, I'm just gonna ask the board if any board members
Yeah,
have.
she has a.
And one more about the music, will the music be play, Carrie Corcoran, 363 Worcester. Would the Muzak be playing continuously for all the hours during open hours?
Yes, but again, it's very small speed. You are not even gonna hear it. You can't even hear it from the parking lot. That's how low it is. It's just a low, just to kind of make a little bit of some music background.
If you're
It's very
standing
low.
at the puttering, you hear some little thing going.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a total of 6 speakers. That's it on that entire acreage. So nothing loud, no hard rock and rap and all. It's just a very low.
Okay, at this time, I'm just gonna ask the board members if they have any questions.
Question for Alan. Did Graves put out another memo?
Yes, Michael spoke to me this morning. He didn't get another memo, but he said everything is fine other than the photometric.
Oh.
And he recommended the photometric condition.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna, make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Alan, if you could just give a Graves report.
Thank you. Again, our original Graves report was May 14th. And originally, again, there weren't that many items. Again, because you guys do a lot of these for us, you understand what our requirements are. There were 19 initial comments, and the only one left as of going over it this morning with Michael was the issue about the photometric. So I can include that in a few minutes in some proposed draft conditions.
I'm gonna, if you do the draft conditions, and
Sure.
then, we'll take a vote on that.
Thank you. Again, very standard conditions initially and then specific to the project. 2-year site plan approval, which means the applicant, and again, you're going sooner than that, but 2 years to pull a building permit. That's always required so people don't put in the effort with the board to do projects and then put them aside. The idea is to, actually do projects that are being proposed. Secondly, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant is required to have a pre-construction meeting between Burton Engineering. Can I have your attention, please? Because you need to hear this. The second condition is the applicant, before getting a building permit, will be required to have a pre-construction meeting between Burton Engineering, the project owner, and Mike Andrade from Graves Engineering. Upon Mike writing up his pre-construction notes and giving it to me, I can issue the notice to proceed to the building commissioner. Third, they'll receive the construction inspection schedule at that pre-construction meeting that will tell at the stages you have Mike Andrade come back when you're building different things at the site to inspect on behalf of the planning board. Fourth, the planning board or its agent shall sign the certificate of occupancy and occupation. Fifth, the photometric, that prior to the issuance of the building permit, we need Mike to review this, and if Mike requires any changes, they have to be made before the building permit. If Mike signs off on it, I'll inform the building commissioner. That's basically it, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to take a vote on the conditions that Alan just.
I'm sorry, I apologize. And from your discussion, I'd like to detail in a last condition the adjustment on the lighting for the gentleman next door. Everything we just discussed about, it will be no more than 16 feet. I'll note the topography change, and that prior to the issuance of the occupancy permit, Mike Andrade will just analyze the lighting shielding and the directional to make sure we don't have a problem, so the abutters are fine on that. So that'll be the 6th condition. I apologize for not adding it.
We're discussing it and right now. At this time, I'd like to take a vote on approving the site plan and the conditions that Alan just read.
So moved.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
We'll write everything up, and when they get to field construction on that lighting, our engineer will be very involved. I'll tell him to contact you, either if you wanna leave a phone number, you can ring your doorbell when it's time on all of that. You can give us a phone number if you'd like.
Can I be contacted on that too?
Sure, just write on the same thing, and our engineer's name is Mike Andre, he'll contact both of you when the time comes, and he'll just make sure the lighting's okay.
Thank you.
No problem. You're all set, we'll write it up next week.
Because we're there 6 days a week.
Yeah, we went through that with Atlantic Trailer, the same thing on Route 20, that Mike went out and made some adjustments to make sure it didn't bother people, yeah. Hey, Chris.
Alright, we're running behind here, so I'd like to keep this going.
As soon as they give me that back, we're all set. Thank you. I'll give you the notice, I'll grab the plan. There we go. Thank you very much.
No, it's the solar farm.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Close the door.
Yeah, just keep it open a slight little amount.
Okay.
Perfect.
Should I go in the hall and ask them to keep it down?
Nah, we'll see. They'll probably move on. Yeah. Now, we know we'll send Chris out.
This
Yeah.
one?
It's a busy place down the hall there.
Alright, okay. Charlton Planning Board is gonna hold a public hearing in accordance to section 7.1.4, 7.2.1, and 7.2.7 of the Charlton zoning bylaws. The Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015, at 7:40 p.m. in the Planning Board office in the George C. McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. On the site plan application from McClure Engineering on behalf of Nichols Hospitality Group, 30 Major Taylor Boulevard, Worcester, Mass. 01508. 01608. Requesting approval to operate a light manufacturing facility for the retrofitting and manufacturing of restaurant furniture and restaurant equipment in an existing vacant building located at 288 Southbridge Road, Route 169, Assessor Map 62, Block A, Parcel 7. Said property is zoned industrial IG. Copy of the site plan applications are available for inspection at the planning board office and the town clerk office during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard should appear at this time and place designated. Alan, if you would just give us a quick idea what
Sure.
we're gonna go through.
To refresh your memory, this is the former vacant dealership next to Incom, and Incom owns it. And again, not to keep repeating redundantly, but as we mentioned with the previous two, this is administrative site plan review. The board is not determining whether it's an allowed use or not. It is an allowed use under Massachusetts zoning. The board just goes over site layout. There's not as much detail here because it's an existing site, it's just being retrofitted, and the board actually did a site plan review for a different type of use, entirely recreational, so some members may be familiar with that. So if, Chris, if you could do no more than 5 minutes, even less if you need to, for an overview, and then the board will ask questions and we can take it from there.
Okay, so is everybody familiar with the property? This is Sherwood Lane, is the Millennium Drive, so it's just south of that. Former Patriot Motors. It's a 9,000 square foot single-story masonry block building. The parking spaces that are there basically exist. There's enough for the use. I'm here on behalf of the H Hospitality Group, and Michael Covino is here to answer any questions relative to the planned use there, but it's going to be fabrication of restaurant, let's say furniture or equipment type of. And they're going to be doing no major renovation. They're just going to be in there fabricating restaurant equipment, bars, other types of. And obviously, if you have any questions relative to that, Michael will be happy to answer them. But everything you see there is basically is going to be left as is. The existing bituminous concrete, the gravel, grassy areas. We are proposing a sign. Right now, he's not going to be installing a sign. They're just going to be refabbing the awning where Patriot Motors have their signage, they're just gonna use that existing awning at the time. But I am showing a sighting of a sign in case they were to utilize something like that on the. And if you do remember from the last site plan we were here, there was a access to Sherwood Lane. Millennium Tower was in and at that time and asked if we could block that access so they wouldn't have to worry about traffic coming in and out. They do have heavy equipment that runs up and down Sherwood Lane to prevent people from exiting that area and for the potential of traffic accidents. But there are two existing cuts within the landscape, the entrance and exits, so there's plenty of access in the middle.
Jane Vraynos called me from Millennium and just wanted to make sure that was staying closed, and when I told her, she said they're supportive of the project, no problem.
Great.
That was really dangerous with the previous recreation one, because there were lots of families with little kids that were pulling in and out.
Exactly.
Pretty much. Alan, you've got any comments at the moment?
No, I know it can even seem odd of why are we doing a site plan review, but in this particular proposal, it's simple and easy. The previous one was the example of,
Sure.
even though something's existing and you're saying, why can't I just move in without having to go through this? We ran into that Sherwood Lane problem, and this was the only way to catch it. It
Right.
wouldn't have been caught, and someone could have been hurt or killed if you didn't go through it.
Yep.
So basically, it's very routine. Chris had met with me when he put it together. It's pretty simple. I was very impressed by your webpage, by the way, when I saw what you guys do in the various restaurants. That was very interesting. And I think you're a nice addition to the economic planning base of the community, too.
You'll like our new website. Showcases what we're gonna actually do there.
Nice. Really? We'll have to pull that up.
Yeah.
Nice.
You won't be getting much traffic, I mean, it's gonna be your employees.
That's it. We'll probably have half a dozen employees
Half a
there.
dozen.
Yeah, we have, metal fabrication, some woodworking, upholstery. So we basically, we build, we fabricate and fit out, basically furniture and fixtures specific to the hospitality industry. So like frames for a bar, hostess desk, wait stations, booths, banquettes, tables, bar tops. So all those things that are specific to a restaurant, so contractors have us do that specific fit out.
Would you do it for any client or just the restaurants on the webpage?
Yeah, we do retail as well.
Oh, great.
So we have, sales sheets. So we've done things like, in the past, the metal fabricators we've used, we've done hair salons, creating reception desks for them, reception areas, custom stations for like at a salon. They say, hey, I would really love something that I could hold my dryers and things like that. We do pretty much anything that you can think of. Board of Health and most of the towns really likes us because we use perforated metal and perforated stainless steel for glassware, so it's breathability. So it's cleaner, it's nicer, and because we operate restaurants and we have 8 of our own, they become little mini showrooms for people to see what we build. Here, there is, because it was a previous car dealership, there is a quote-unquote showroom there.
Yeah.
So we're not adding any walls. In that showroom, there will be, so like, there'll be like a bar that's half skinned and half open, so you can see the structure and see how they're built. Hostess desks, things like that, our tables. So we will have a little showroom area, but it's not that likely that we'll have an abundance of traffic. We might have a client that might say, geez, I'd love to visit your site and come see it, but we have parking for much, much more than we would ever need.
I have one question on the site plan. We don't have anything for dumpster removals, and being what you're doing, I would assume that there's gonna be some waste.
Yes.
So where would the dumpsters be so that it's not?
I would say, and this is all paved, so I would say the dumpster would be back in this area.
Hidden.
Then what we would require is, as part of this, that we usually require explaining or including in the decision what the fence will be, that type of thing.
Okay.
So what would you propose? What would you like to put around it?
Well, there is fencing in through this gate, so I think if he had it in behind the building, it would never be seen from the,
Oh,
from
so
the front.
the entire side of the building is
This is
fenced?
This is all
Right.
fenced, and this
Okay.
is all fenced as well.
And then the whole perimeter, the sides, the back.
Yes.
So everything from this entire area is a fence. It goes like this, then it meets the building, and it goes in. So there's gates here and here. So we would put we
I just-
prefer to put it back.
I'm just concerned about, you know, dumpster overfills and people driving by.
Yeah.
So, is there some way we can
Well,
stipulate that it's in the back
Can you
of the
get
building?
back there at all beyond this point? Tell me if I'm wrong, but did you just say that this is all fenced entirely?
Yes, but there's a sliding gate here.
Is this sliding gate of a lock?
Yes, it does, yep,
Okay.
yep.
I guess that would
So in
keep people
trash
from
day,
getting
unlock
back there
it.
then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in my business, in restaurant operations, we're very aware of trash removal, so we have,
Yeah.
It's just that the site doesn't show a dumpster, and I'd
Yeah.
hate to be driving down the street and find a dumpster.
Can you add a dumpster to the plan
Sure.
first?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
It won't be
That's a
in the
very good
front.
point.
Yeah, it is, I'm shocked that I actually missed that, so, good job, Pete.
And it's an existing structure,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's business coming to the community. Alan, you got any other, do we get Gray's reviews on any?
No, we didn't even have a Gray's review because it's just, there's nothing to change. You went through all of that review with the last tenant, so there was nothing to change. I just recommend the standard 2-year approval just for the record as a condition, and obviously they're going for their building permit much sooner, and that would be it.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept the drawing as shown with the conditions that, they show where the dumpster is gonna go, and that last comment that Alan just made about the 2-year, condition. Do I have a motion for that?
So,
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
This moved very quickly. If it had been slower, I would have introduced you and had you come one afternoon to the Economic Development Commission. Jay Diderando is the chair, so you know him. If the next upcoming meeting in the next month or so, if I can give you a call and have you come by and introduce yourself, and that way, even though the planning board completed its site plan review, the project is still being constructed and they'll be in the loop. Thanks.
That's my direct line on it.
Great. I'll give you a call in the next week or so.
Email, so yeah, please do.
Thanks.
Great, thanks very much.
thanks very much.
Just out of curiosity, you said you have restaurants in the area or not in the area?
I do, yeah. I have 4 that I own and operate in Worcester.
Oh, okay.
So Niche Hospitality Group is my company, so we operate Mezcal, it's a southwestern Mexican restaurant, a place called the Bocado. Bocado is Spanish tapas wine bar. We have a restaurant called The Citizen, which is a wine bar, and the People's Kitchen is above. And then we have a burger restaurant called The Fix. And then we have a restaurant in Providence, Rhode Island, Wellesley, Mass, 2 in Leominster.
Wow.
Maybe as we develop along Route 20, there's interest
Oh,
here.
Yeah.
I was just trying to convince him on all.
Yeah, we had time out there to talk about it.
We all need a restaurant.
Yep,
Yes.
We'll get there.
it won't be here. Yeah,
But nearby.
good.
Yeah.
Nearby will be fine. All
Great.
right, great.
We'll
Thanks
write
for
it
your
up at the
time.
beginning of the week. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take
Thank
care.
you guys, have a good night.
Alright. You can keep that door open if you would, Chris, at the moment.
Thank you.
Is that from the conservation?
Yeah, I think it was conservation district. Okay, we're down to the 7:50, even though it's 8:30. You have the building name?
Yes, this is the A&R that goes with the special permit. They received their variance last night on the driveway length from the zoning board. So this is the A&R that is exactly what you approved, splitting the property into 2 lots, and there's some paper copies that were just folded up instead of rolled up, but it's the usual. Now, the fact that they got the variance, they're basically all set. Yeah, and I'm sure they went to conservation tonight, I understand.
Correct.
Yeah. On your next agenda, I've been emailing with Anne Marie Hurley, the applicant's attorney. She'll give me for your next agenda a proposed common driveway agreement, and the board can look at it. I'll show you the previous few that you already signed from a few years ago and compare it, and I'm sure it'll be fine.
So, would we sign something like this tonight with those stipulations that we have to see the other agreements?
What I recommend is you sign this and have me hold it, and then I'll ask Rick Parra to come in and write a cross-reference on this. Because you can approve this, and you should approve it without the common driveway agreement, and you don't need to put the common driveway agreement reference on this. It has to go in the deed. That's what matters. But what you need to do is have Rick Parra add to this that a variance was granted on such and such a date. And so he can come by the office when he picks it up, and he can do that with indelible ink pen.
Okay.
So basically, all you're doing tonight is splitting the property into the 2 lots.
Okay. And then is there some way that, for the record, we can make sure that those other little stipulations that you just mentioned gets recorded?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. As part of the special permit. At the end of the 20-day appeal period for a special permit, the town clerk, she's holding the original, he will have to take it, or his attorney will, and file that original at the Registry of Deeds, which is unique only to special permits. We don't require that in Massachusetts for the site plans. That's why we don't talk about it.
We may not be able to sign this tonight because I'm not allowed to sign this because I was abstained from the hearing.
Mhm.
Is that
I
correct?
don't sign subdivision plans.
You could do one of two things then. You could vote to approve it, have two members sign it, and with the condition that one of the other members come by to sign it, because A&Rs are very flexible in Massachusetts. Or you could delegate it to me because I'm on file at your request at the registry that you can delegate a one signature of your staffer, and I could sign it next week when he comes by for it after he makes those changes. So you could do the vote tonight to approve it
Right.
with the condition that the signing is your staffer, and I could do the signature for you next week with the date of next Monday or Tuesday.
That sounds good.
I'd like to make a motion to sign the A&R plan tonight as two members and delegate Alan as a board member to sign it when the additional comments are made on this.
And just for the record, so people understand, that's common in Massachusetts. It's unique only to A&Rs, because A&Rs are more like real estate plot plans, that any planning board can assign a staffer as one of the signatories. And my signature is on record annually at the Registry of Deeds in Worcester.
Okay. So,
Carl, you have a question at the time? Okay. All in favor?
aye.
So if we get two signatures tonight on the one Mylar and one paper copy, and then I'll hold it till next week and meet with the town. Thank you. Good way to handle it.
I meant to say the word staffer, but I lost track of my words.
That's okay.
And at that time, we'll have it dated, and
Yeah.
probably, we could probably get Ross to come in and,
Sure, that wouldn't be a problem. You can come by. It was okay, because he...
Is that the Mylar?
he was here that night, Ross was.
I wasn't that much out.
Oh, you would sign first this paper copy, and then this is the Mylar, this one right here. That other one is just what they
Okay.
call a sepia. Doesn't
Okay, you
matter.
sign that one, and then, yeah, you got it.
Yep, so just that one and the paper copy, and then Jane will do her usual stamping of the other copies and sorting and distributing to other town boards and departments.
Okay. Where's that say?
It's weird how this one's folded.
We'll just throw it right up there, unfold it the way it is. We'll take it from there. Thanks.
All right, any news about growth management?
Just two quick things. One, Village District, we're heading it out to print in the next few days. And then, once it comes back in a week or so, we'll be able to distribute everybody a cover letter from the planning board signed by the chairman that'll go out through general government. We'll also, once we get the print copies, we'll have the webmaster, Lisa West, will put it up on the web. And as the summer goes by, I'll keep working during the workday, but also it'll come to the board from our last meeting with the Overlook folks, and I'll continue to coordinate with Rich Care and St. Joe's and the Miller family. And I did have a good working meeting last Friday with Mike Andrade, your engineer, regarding eventually preparing the zoning map warrant with meets and bounds, and they may, if Overlook and some of the other folks want only part of their property, then Mike Andrade would send a surveyor out to shoot some lines. If they want all of their property, it's a lot quicker and easier. So that'll progress through the summer, and then we'll see if all of them want the fall town meeting, or none of them. All of them want the Springtown meeting or none of them, or like you said, Mr. Chairman, phase 1 in the fall, phase 2 in the spring. So that's in the pipeline. My second item under growth management is kind of related to the fact that you completed the village district. I was approached recently and had a working meeting the other day with Eric Smith, your consultant, and another gentleman who's a planner at Central Mass. And they thought of us for the first dip your toe in the water in Central Mass for an upcoming, possibly, planning program. And I said that I'd bring it before you and recommend that maybe it's something we want to see where it goes. And I'll give you this handout and then explain it as non-technical as possible. Last year in 2014, the governor signed a transportation bond bill. Now, bond bills are only authorizations for setting up programs. It doesn't mean they really get set up. In any bond bill, a lot of things that get approved never get translated into a state agency program with actual money. But one of the efforts in there seems to be gaining some traction. They put aside in this bond bill $50 million over a 10-year period that would authorize what they call a complete streets program, which has across the country been very successful in other states across the country. And the idea is that over that 10-year period, they would have $5 million available statewide. And you could apply to the Complete Streets program and get some sidewalk money if it's related to certain things and if you meet certain criteria. So what the two planners at Central Mass were thinking, if this program pops up and they think it will, then maybe we could work with them, set up a local Complete Streets program on our end and apply through them to see if we can get some village district money. The qualification would be that we have a village district plan, that it fits in by putting in some sidewalk segments here and there to connect, and that they did that pedestrian and bike count study as part of the village district plan. So my first question to them is, how realistic is this? I mean, after 32 years of being a planner, I've seen bond bills come and go on everything, and state agencies say they'll do it or not. And they said they really feel very strongly from working with some people at DHCD and District 3 Mass Highway and the Boston office of DOT that by the end of the summer, they think they're going to announce out of DOT and DHCD an actual program. And they thought that maybe we would be one of the first ones to go in. So I said, what do we have to do to qualify? And that's the handout I just gave you. In order for the regional planning agency to certify you and the DOT to certify you that you have a complete street certification and you're eligible to apply for the money, you're looking for a couple of things. I'm going to take them out of the order that he wrote them. Eric wrote this. I'm going to put them in a different order. Number 3 is the most important one that you do first. You'd have to meet with your highway superintendent, which is Jerry Foskett, and you'd have to show Jerry that they require incorporating certain, what they call complete streets procedures into his routine road maintenance. So I said, what does that mean? And they said, basically, when he's striping certain larger roads, such as the road in front of the town hall, you'd have some striping on the side in terms of maybe some bike area or a little walkability buffering. I asked if it had anything to do with changing street designs or repaving, and they told me no. So at this point I'll take them that it's more of a restriping. I did say that I want samples from other communities because they have samples from outside of Massachusetts. Review process for private development is number 4, that within Charlton subdivision regs and your site plan review, that sidewalks and bike lanes and curbing and proper roads and all the smart growth type of design is part of your review. And I said we do that anyway. So number 4 is already there. Number 5, mode share goal. I've never even heard that phrase before. And I said, what does that mean? That's the type of thing that puts you to sleep. And they said, well, again, adopting from the other states, Massachusetts would require a mode share goal that you just establish a goal in your day-to-day planning through the planning board that you're committed to intermodal, you're committed to bicycle planning, you're committing to pedestrian amenities as you do site plans, as you do subdivisions. Baseline inventory, that's number 2. They've mostly completed that already through the village district plan. he'd probably go out, because the village district pedestrian and bicycle count was about a year old. Probably late summer to early fall, he'd do another one for 2015. And then the fourth one would, or the fifth one would be actually the first one he listed, because you don't do that till you complete the other four. Then the planning board would request of the select board to accept your recommendation that to adopt a local complete streets policy based on all of this to become grant eligible. You're not adopting a regulation, you're not adopting any particular, and you're definitely not adopting a funding commitment. You're just, the request goes in from planning board to the selectmen to the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission and DOT. It's the steps you take. So again, since it's a little gray in terms of through the summer the program is being set up, I said that at this stage I would bring it to you this evening, and that in concept as a town planner I love the idea of it, but I think what I'd recommend is maybe we respond to them in a positive way, that say the board reviewed it this evening and we'd like to be considered and work with you on a timetable that makes sense in terms of the state creating the program. I wouldn't roll up our sleeves and do anything in the next 30 to 60 days, obviously, without a state program. But if they want to do an update of the baseline, the pedestrian and bike stuff from last year, why not? If I can sit down with Jerry Foskett, I've already talked to Jerry about the idea of it, and he said, yeah, I'd obviously like to meet about details, and if Jerry's got concerns with the details that can't be met, we don't do it.
Yeah.
But if Jerry has items that are okay with it, then fine. So those in-house working steps could take place right now preliminarily, and just see if this ever goes anywhere by late summer, early fall. I'm sorry to go so long, but that's the best way to explain it. I do know that there's several other states in the country that have been doing complete streets for quite a while, and I guess that's why the state government last year came up with it. And a couple of my students actually in my course have actually done reports on that in other places, and it seems pretty effective. As long as there's money involved, they can give to a town or a city for it.
Yeah. Interesting.
I do have a couple copies of a handout, if you'd like to either look at or keep, that they gave me, that doesn't talk specifically about Massachusetts, but just the complete streets concept as it's being used in America, that type of thing.
Should be listing all the streets that we have in Charlton and stuff like that.
I asked that question too, is this a town-wide thing? And they said, not really, it's a village district thing. They said, what makes sense why they feel that we could be one of the first few towns to be put forward through them to DOT is, you're pointing to the state by saying, look, they did this village district planning process. Now, would you give them some money to actually help in terms of sidewalks and such in that district? Town-wide, I was a little apprehensive of, well, you know, that's a lot of work, and what will we really get something out of it? So they said, no, we would zero in right on the village district.
Take the village district and your immediate streets off it.
Exactly.
And then see if they're capable of having them designated as a bike route.
Yep. In fact,
Another strike.
I pulled out from the plan, this was from your village district plan. He had looked at the sidewalks 2 years ago in the village district and color-coded, rated them in terms of quality. And the ones that exist are in really good shape, more or less, but there aren't that many that exist.
Yeah.
So they could use that as a base and say to the state, DOT, they've got a sidewalk network, but it needs to be expanded, and it fits in with this comprehensive plan, so the state would like that. It came out of rational long-range planning.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense with the whole village district plan, you know, getting people down there.
Exactly, yeah. And comfortable to walk around or bike around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the comfort factor is a key. If you're comfortable, I can draft up a simple letter to him that, you know, we'd be interested in working further and seeing where it goes, type of thing. And CC it to Jerry, and I'll keep working with Jerry Foskett on it.
Okay.
If Jerry has any concerns, I fully respect that. If there's something in that management requirement that conflicts, then I say we don't do it.
It'll make extra work for him.
Yeah, but they assured me that it's mainly, if 100%, it's more about when you restripe, are you taking into account that there's some crosswalks for pedestrian, that you might have a solid line along there where a bike might be able to turn, even if you're not doing a full bike lane. It's just keeping in mind when you maintain literally through the painting of the streets that you have pedestrians and bikes, not just cars driving around. But we'll go into the detail and see if it's
A
worthwhile.
lot of our streets aren't that wide,
Right.
you could
Exactly.
add a bike trail.
Yeah.
Two cars and a bike.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be no problem.
It's a good
Not a
point.
lot of streets, but
It's hard to
some
walk,
of them are.
it's hard to walk with two cars.
Okay. We got no minutes to review. Anything else in growth management?
Just on my usual checklist items at the end, a handful, just a few. One, it's June, and every June we have the standard amendment to the peer review contract for Graves Engineering. And so I asked Mike for it for tonight. Actually, you approved the last one a year ago tonight. And nothing has changed other than, I'll send one copy this way, one this way. On page 2, they increased by $2 an hour their rates, which is about 1.5%. And again, we don't pay, it's peer review, the applicants pay. So I have no problem with the rate going up in this economy by about 1.25% to 1.5%.
So this was last year's.
That one's last year's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that,
No,
just to
13.
show you,
Yeah.
Carl has 2 copies of this year's.
Yep.
With,
This one's last year's, right?
And that, yeah, I'll take that one back. The 2 copies that Carl has with the red stickies are the ones you'd sign this year. As long as all 4 of you vote tonight, that's the majority. You only need 3, but all 4 can vote on it. No
What do
problem.
so we'll be voting on the, increase for the hourly rate and to give them a contract for another year.
Extending the contract for
Extending
1
the
year,
contract
yes,
For another year.
yes. Those are the 2 items, thank you.
I'm gonna let Carl look at that for a minute.
I'm just looking at the dollar values, that's all, I'm just
Okay.
curious.
I think Derek's afraid of it.
No, I'm good.
You
I
sure?
don't think we should do that.
All right, then,
Yep.
do I have a motion to give Graves an extension for 1 more year of their contract and to agree to the pay increase that they're requesting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now do we sign this?
Yes, you can sign under the signature block any line you'd like.
Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. I can go on with a few others just
Sure.
while you're doing that. Just a reminder, your next meeting, 2 weeks from tonight, June 17th, is across the street, second floor of the library, for the latest session for Sunset City, which will be civil engineering and noise. Also on that agenda that night, 2 other things. You have a quick public hearing for a young couple that their family had received a reduced frontage lot from you that expired 5 or 6 years ago, and now they'd like to get it reapproved so they can go for building permit. Also, Water Sewer Commissioner Rob Lemansky is on the agenda that night for his annual touch base on water sewer, and we'll post it as a joint meeting with the EDC for that item, and a few EDC members will probably show, because they join.
You wanna keep that the same night as the motocross?
I would. I think we're in that second round with motocross, that the time commitment now is like your last one. It was about 45 minutes maybe. I don't see any reason to have to block out your agenda the way you did with the first 3 sessions of the hearing.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that, somebody like the sewer commissioner and the EDC would,
No waiting around?
Yeah.
not waiting around.
Yeah.
It's- they
And I
better
did tell
time.
Rob, I went over that agenda, and he chose that agenda. He said he had no problem with it.
Have they submitted any updated noise stuff?
What happened is, they did a field analysis about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I talked to our consultant, and he's waiting for them to submit it to them, and it's an any day now type of thing. He needs a minimum of a couple of days before the meeting, but I'm sure we'll get it before a couple of days before the meeting.
Yep.
But as soon as it comes in, I'll both share it with people who are interested out in the public, through posting, and also provide it to the board. And
Thank
civil engineering, I talked to Mike Loyne the other day, same thing, they're working on it, and he's hoping to get it to us as soon as possible. So Mike Andrade can review it properly before the June 17th meeting.
We signed 2, one stays with us and one goes with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, great, I'll take it back and put it in the folder for
Okay.
forwarding it for Jane. A couple other quick items. we'll see if it goes anywhere, and I've been asked to stay as confidential as possible on details by the business corporation, but there is an entity that periodically their consultant meets with me and contacts me, and they're down to 3 sites in central Massachusetts for a manufacturing type facility that would be very large, and one of them is one of the Route 20 sites. So I've given her all the information. I've pitched in terms of, you know, I think we have a very amenable, simple site plan process. The location is exactly what we've zoned for that type of thing. And she said they'll make a decision in the near future, ranking them 1, 2, and 3. If we're 1, she'll call me back and they'll hire an engineering firm to get going on site plan review. I'll let you know as soon as I hear anything one way or the other. We had a pretty extensive discussion the other day, and I have a feeling within 1 to 2 weeks they're gonna make their decision on where they're going. So that's in the works. Just double checking. I mentioned Sunset City and the reduced frontage. We will be getting in next week from Zero Point Engineering the resubmittal for their proposed solar site plan on part of the former Castigian farm. Brendan Gove told me he had the neighborhood meeting, and there was a serious concern, which I expected and fully respect, of not so much at all for his project, but will this open the floodgates for Blair Builders to put the subdivision road in from the end of Curtis Road instead of 31. So I told him that we will state again at the hearing for the site plan that the planning board has been committed for years and has the full authority through state chapter 41 subdivision law to mandate that that road will not come in from the end of Curtis Hill Road. And I've asked Mr. Blair to put it again in writing now, so it can be shared with everybody now through the site plan review. So if anybody's watching and anybody hears about it, I would recommend we stay committed to that, and that the only thing that come off the end of Curtis Hill Road is a gated gravel driveway for a pickup truck to get into the solar field, because National Grid said that's the only way they want the access to run their lines in, and a driveway for the power people to go in and out. So, that said, if it comes in next week as they'd like to, I could put it on for your July 15th planning board meeting. The only other item, and I thought I mentioned it briefly, no reason to get into it heavy, but there was an email from the town administrator to me and Peter and the EDC chairman about she's making a request to the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the tip list at CMRPC to get the Route 20 upgrade onto the tip. And Mary Ellen Blunt explains in that string of emails, who's the transportation director over there, why it's too early to put it on the tip. But the email to us had requested, would planning board and EDC write a support letter, and I can't recommend it this early. It's a waste of time, but it's also just not the proper stage. We're at the pre-25% design stage. I talk regularly with the engineering consultant, and when they get to a more advanced design stage, they'll come back for local hearings and workshops, and then it will evolve onto the tip. It had been on a preliminary tip for a few years, but the project price at that point was only 18 million. Now, they took it off that preliminary level because the price, now that they get more detailed into the project, is going to be about $53 million. And if, as Mary Ellen Blunt will tell you, if you put it at this early stage on, you're pushing other projects that are more advanced and or shovel ready aside. I just don't feel that there's any reason to, and I think it's causing turmoil and dissension for no reason, adversarial with CMRPC and DOT. So I would respectfully wait and see and let the District 3 office and Central Mass Regional Planning put it on the tip when they feel. We're not being short-served, we're not being misserved by anybody on this. We're at the right stage of it.
What is the tip?
The TIP stands for Transportation Improvement Program. Federal and state transportation money nationwide gets distributed by the regional planning agencies in partnership to them state highway departments for their state projects, bridges and roads. You need to get a project on the tip list to move it through the funding pipeline.
Yep.
Again, it was on a couple of earlier tips. For those particular years, there was not an issue. But 2015 is different. The price has ballooned, money is less, and Central Mass and DOT needs to prioritize on that tip projects farther along. We are not being shoved to the side. We are not somewhere we shouldn't be. And I just think it's just not appropriate, and I think it's being too adversarial with the state regional Central Mass Regional Planning Commission and DOT to get pushy about this thing. And I'd rather that we just work with them instead of going that route. Those are my items, thank you.
Okay. Like I said, we have no minutes to review. Alan kinda went over some new planning board businesses with items.
Thank you.
And, unless somebody's got some miscellaneous stuff to discuss. I have a motion to close the planning board hearing, planning board meeting for June 3rd, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Sounds good.
That concludes.
Aye.
Aye, me too. That concludes the scheduled portion of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.